Aloha, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Faith and Family First. I'm your host, Eva Andrade. I'm here with Marcus Oshiro, and we're going to be taking a look at the last, few weeks just to kind of see what are the current events that are happening, not only here locally, but nationally, how you should be paying attention to these things, and maybe how we can start preparing ourselves for what's coming up. So let's chat about that. Marcus.
Eva.
Oh, hi. I like your hat. Let's start about the hat because that's a very good representation of us local folk.
Hey, it's live, surf with aloha, live with aloha. It's all what it's about here.
And you do both. You live with aloha. I've seen it. I've seen you, Marcus, with my eyeballs when people come up to you at the Capitol, back when you were in the Capitol, and they didn't agree with you.
Yeah.
And they would kind of come up and try to get into, and you always showed aloha.
Yeah, well, that's why we're here, right? I mean, that's why we're here this day and age. We have to practice aloha, we have to serve with aloha, and we have to surf with aloha.
That's right. That's right. Actually, it's a really good way to start the conversation about current events because you and I, we do a really good job, I think. And we really drill in that we do everything with a sense of aloha, everything. Yeah. So when things that are happening around us are things that create anger or angst or make us want to get big body, then that's when we have to, relax and start showing. What stink eye? What is that? What is that? And I apologize for those of you from the mainland who may not know what big body is. Here in Hawaii, you have that chance when somebody makes you mad and you like kind of puff yourself up and make big body. And in Hawaii, we make big body and then we make stink eye. It has nothing to do with smell. It's a look.
Yeah,
right?
It's that look.
It's that look. So let's start with a couple of the events that I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah. What about that airlines where they had to get everybody off of the flight because somebody had called in a bomb threat?
Yeah, you know what? That's the craziest, spookiest thing that ever can happen today. Not only is that going on, but recently there've been a lot of problems with airlines itself, right? With the flight control operators, right? That 90 seconds of flying blind, right? Coming in, right? At Newark, right? So there's things inside there. So anytime you get onto a plane, I think, there's going to be a short fuse there when someone says, we're not taking off, something's wrong, and we're going to have to change things.
Mm-hmm. And that's a small part because look at all the YouTube videos that are out right now of people that have meltdowns, either getting on the plane or when they're on the plane, people drinking too much alcohol, people refusing to give up something that could be considered dangerous.
Yeah.
Attitude.
Yeah. And it even happens here in inter-island between here in Hilo or here in Kona or here in Kauai, when people have maybe too much to drink, you get a little bit too kind of crazy, not surfing with aloha, and acting up. And then brother or sister gotta get the twist ties, strip them down, right? Strap them down.
I don't want to be too, local as I say this, but I've grown up here and I gotta be honest, right? And I don't know if you feel the same way. And Reagan, who are our great producer behind the camera, let me know if you experience this too. But here in Hawaii, what I notice is there is a difference in the way people treat you. Like when you're in a crowded place or, don't get me wrong. People can still do things, Right. But when I get off the plane on the mainland, in the mainland airports and in the mainland shopping malls and all that, there is a difference in how people treat each other.
Yeah.
Except in the South, where they say that if you ask someone in the South, how y'all doing? They're going to tell you.
Yeah. Oh. Southern aloha.
Yeah, the Southern aloha.
Yeah.
So maybe there are Southern kin.
There are. I think so.
That wonderful
They got
spirit.
it. They got the vibe.
That they do. But there is a big change when you think about, because back in the day, and people are enjoying these back in the day conversations we're having. You remember back in the day when you'd be at the airport and people could actually wait for you right there by the gate.
At the gate.
With their lei.
With all the leis. All the tears coming down when you go to school.
Or when you're leaving, my baby going to school. My baby going to leave.
Come.
Oh, baby.
You run into the airplane. You're holding them on the airplane.
Hey, you used to get emotional.
Oh, yeah.
I used to love it. Like,
Jump the ukulele over there.
Getting off the plane on the neighbor islands where you had to get it out in the rain and the sleet and I was going to say snow, but it wasn't never that bad. But because we'd have to walk through the tarmac, and but I used to love that, especially going to Maui, because that's where my grandparents are for, where they'd be standing at the airport and we'd get off the plane and we'd get off the plane to smile, and it wasn't just them. Everybody's getting their ohana is there meeting them as they get off there. And now people are just standing up in the plane before the plane has even really taxied in, and then getting in and out because people are just so rude in the aisles of the plane.
Yeah, you want to just get out, get going. Go home, check in, check out. Yeah.
Man, that is just, but it goes back to your point in the beginning. It's just a gentle reminder to do everything with aloha.
Got it.
Yeah. Okay, how about the Kilauea volcano eruption?
Wow, that's so exciting. I said, wow, that's one of those things, it's a bucket item thing. You gotta see the lava. I tell people, if you have never been to Kilauea, never been to Hawaii Island, you guys gotta get there. Make arrangements to get there, plan ahead. But to see Mother Nature, or, nature creating new land, wow.
And you know what? I know this is weird, and I don't want any comments from the cheap seats, but I actually like the smell of sulfur, as long as it's not like super. Like I wouldn't like being in the fiery pits of hell. Okay, but there is something about that when you see the eruption, and especially at nighttime.
Oh, okay,
you get a little bit of that sulfur smell or whatever. I know it's probably not good for you or whatever, but I don't know.
Kind of medicinal, I think. Yeah, it's like. Yeah, it
reminds me of Jesus and how I'd better be living my life the right way.
Dante's Inferno, right? Yeah,
But I like your point about like you're witnessing creation. You're watching the newest part of the islands being formed right before your very eyes.
Yeah, 1,000-foot fountains, Kilauea, shooting up magma. That's just amazing. That tells you everything about how glorious creation is, that we can witness it from a safe distance. It's like awesome, right?
Yep. But don't look up stuff on the internet about the eruptions, because then you're going to end up going down the bunny hole like I did about, oh no, there's a big eruption that's probably going to take place in the next, 100 years because the fault is shifting.
You're not a conspiracy
I am not, but
you sound like it.
No, it's like you do one search for like Kilauea eruption. Yeah, and then all of a sudden everything starts coming up on the side, and I'm like, what do you mean the world's going to end in 100 years? I don't click on it because that's it, man. The FBI is going to be like, which,
I'm not saying anything.
You got to watch what you search for.
I'm just ChatGPT.
ChatGPT. I named my ChatGPT.
You did?
I did. I asked ChatGPT. I said, can I give you a name? And so ChatGPT responded, sure, that would be great. And so I said, what would you like to be called? And so ChatGPT responded something to that. Well, how about Kai? And then gave ChatGPT, whatever. And I was like, no, I'm going to call you Olelo.
Wow.
And ChatGPT was touched, if it can be touched. It was, thank you so much. And then because it's learning, right? It's learning me. And so it knows what Olelo means.
Really?
And then it was like so impressed with that. So now I just go, aloha Olelo. And then it'll say, aloha Eva. Then we have a little chat. Yes. I'm telling you, I'm ChatGPT needs to reach out to me and start funding this channel. Okay, they're not sponsoring the channel, but they should, because I'm telling everybody I love it. I'm gonna get the nasty emails from people telling
I'm sure. Not me.
And you started it by saying that, that I'm looking.
Surf with Aloha?
Yeah, no,
Come on.
You started it by telling me I'm one of those conspiracy theorists. So now people are gonna be all nervous. Right? They're gonna be like, okay, so how about, and you actually might enjoy talking about this, and you probably have some background information. How about the Maui wildfire debris relocation efforts?
Oh my gosh, that's such a hard call, because it has to be removed from the Lahaina community, right? Mm-hmm. You got to do that before you start, putting things back in, putting pipes back in, allowing people to rebuild their homes and their businesses, right? So you got to take it somewhere, right? Unless you can take it off island, it has to go someplace on island.
Yeah.
And no one wants it in their backyard.
No, it's 400 tons of debris, is according to the recent news sources.
Nobody wants it. So originally, one of the ideas was, do we take it on a barge and do we ship it off island, and then where would it go? Right, we're in the middle of the Pacific, right? 2,300
Throw it in the middle of Kilauea, and then when Kilauea,
oh my God, no!
Then when Kilauea erupts, and burn it to death, right? Burn it.
No. It's like taking the H power in Honolulu. No, you can't do that. No, it's really a hard call, because wherever you're going to be taking it to, those community members will be affected by it. It's like the whole idea of the Waimanalo Gulch, right? The one in Nanakuli area, right, where the city and county now takes this waste, right? They're trying to recite it, and where they're gonna put it. So they looked at an area north of Waihawa, my hometown, to do a landfill there on prime ag land, where it's currently being cultivated by Dole pineapple, and it's sitting above the aquifer. We can't have it there, but where do we take our waste?
And they're looking west side, right? They were looking down that side too, and like you said, everyone's like, not here.
Yeah, so
not here.
So for the folks in Lahaina, the folks on Maui, it's a tough call. It's, to me, in a way, it's a lesser of evils, but it's going to be controversial.
Yeah, well, it's going to be interesting to watch, because this definitely hasn't been settled yet, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's going to be a lot of debate about that. So if you have people of faith that are watching, I mean, what would you say to the people of faith that are like saying, well, what does that have to do with us? I mean, that's not a faith issue.
Well, if you live on the island, it definitely will affect you, because, we're all in a small community there. It's going to affect someone there, someone your community. But it has to be done. Again, it has to be done so that the community of Lahaina can go and rebuild and move back in and reestablish their homes and their businesses. So you got to get involved, stay involved, and voice your opinion. That's part of the requirements of being a citizen, right?
Yeah, and I like that, because we always talk about how what sets us apart, right, from people that consider themselves progressive and all that, is what you're going to hear from people on the other side of the aisle. And I'm not talking about Democrat and Republican. I'm talking now about conservative versus liberal or progressive, right? What you're going to hear from them is a lot of I's. I deserve to have this, or I want to make this choice. What you hear, or what we should be hearing from the people of faith, is more about the we. This affects us. We care about the Aina. We care about our community. We care about our family. We care because it affects everybody, right? I mean, and I think it's hard to do. It's hard to do, Marcus, especially if you feel beat up all the time, right?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, especially for certain communities out in that area that already feel, oppressed or, been, misled, I think. But I think the important thing is to participate, go in there with an open heart, an honest heart, and listen to your neighbors, because their concerns are just as legitimate as yours.
You know what? In fact, building on what you just said, what might be a really good thing for people to do right now with their legislator, and I don't care whether this is your house, your representative in the House, or your Senate representative, or even your congressional delegation, is to, how about reach out to them and find out what's on their heart right now?
I think that's an excellent idea. Right now it's a great time, because the legislature is out of session right now. They're planning to go into a special session, maybe as early as July 9th for the purposes of overriding any vetoes by the governor.
And stay tuned to the next show because Marcus and I are going to be talking about special session and how that's going to affect us right here in the States. So make sure.
We
Next
are?
session. Next show.
Next show.
Next show.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. No,
yeah, I like to spring things on you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Makes it live and exciting.
Yeah.
No. So
feels like the legislature. What you talking about?
Yeah. Well, it is. Yeah. Don't sleep until it's over. Right? Yeah. Stay awake. Anyway, I think it's a good time right now to hook up with them. They just got out about a month ago, and I think they would like to hear from the constituents. They want to know, did I do okay? Are you happy with me?
As long as you don't start on the attack, right? Because
not at all.
And I want to be clear because I have had conversations with people about this. I'm not saying that you shouldn't complain to your legislator because I do think there is a time for you to sit with your legislator and say, this was a stressful issue. Here's why I didn't like what happened. Right. Maybe you didn't like their vote. You should be able to sit down with them and say, I didn't like how you voted on this issue. I'm talking about, so I'm not talking about the what. I'm talking about the how.
Yeah.
How do you do it? Because I believe, and you can definitely correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that if I was a legislator, I want to hear from you if we disagree, and I want to hear where you're coming from. But if you're going to come in and just attack me and tell me you don't like me because I don't go to church or because, I don't know, I've done something wrong, and some legislators are not perfect and they do things wrong, but it's how do you have those conversations with them?
Yeah. First of all, they're like you and me. They're human beings, okay? And most of us as human beings, we like to be liked. And most of us as human beings, especially in public service, you want to do the right thing. I mean, that's why they ran for office. That's why they're served. They want to do the right thing. Honestly, they truly believe that. And I truly believe that about all of them. So if you go and approach them with that understanding, then I think that's the best way of proceeding to get to know your legislators better. They may not become your best buddies, BFF, best friends forever, but you have a relationship with them, and that's important.
I liken it to the same relationship you got to have with your physician. You got to see your physician. Your physician's going to tell you if you're living healthy or not living healthy. You may not like the lifestyle of the physician, but their job is to make you well, right? The legislator's job is to make our land well, to make our laws well.
Right.
And so we may not always agree,
right,
but if we're coming at them from a professional way and with Christ, right? I mean, and really that's why we're doing what we're doing, because we wear Christ like a garment. And whether we're talking or not, people should know we serve a very powerful God.
Yes. And again, you have to serve with aloha.
I love it. I love it. We gotta make
Is there a theme about that?
I think so. I love it. I love it.
I don't know. For me, it's like top of mind. I don't know why today.
Yeah. And for those of you watching, type a comment below. If you agree with us, if you disagree with us, what do you do when you're talking to someone you disagree with? How do you wear your hat of aloha, or how do you surf with aloha when you're talking to someone you disagree? Because it's easy to do when you agree with them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So, last kind of political current event, because I'm really interested to see what you think about this one. What about the green fee legislation that was just passed? So, for those that may not know what I'm talking about, I'm talking about Senate Bill 1396. Okay. And this introduced a green fee by increasing the lodging tax from 9.25% to 11% starting January 26. The legislation aims to generate 85 to 100 million annually to fund climate resilience and environmental efforts, such as combating coastal erosion and wildfires. So what you're going to hear already, I can hear it now. People go, oh God, anything that has to do with, environment and all that make some people very nervous. But I got to just remind people, we live in Hawaii. So I do think we need to pay attention to the environment.
I think the environment is very important, not only for local people who live here, call the islands home, but our visitors. They come here because of our environment, our pristine, oceans, our safe tourist attractions, historical monuments,
the legacy we leave our
the
children.
forests, the trails, everything we have here in Hawaii that's unique, nowhere else in the world, needs to be protected. And I think for the intentions of the governor, and this is his idea, this is his big proposal, I think it can go a long way to preserving and protecting our environment.
Oh, see, and what is why from your end, because you were in the legislature, what were some of the opposition that you were getting over the years on this whole environment thing?
You'll get this. You'll get it that it's going to be an additional tax, and call it what it is, a spade. It's a tax. It'll be a tax upon our visitors, who will pay more on their TAT, transit accommodations tax. It's picked up by the locals also when they stay at a hotel or they stay at a lodging. They pay for it too. But it's earmarked for a particular purpose. And I think that's where the environment has always been shortchanged, in my opinion, and I ran the finance committee for a while, has always been shortchanged amongst other priorities, and understandably so. Trees can't speak, plants can't speak, but they provide so much to us. So I think it's a good idea. Hopefully that people will enjoy the outcomes of that reinvestment in the natural environment. And again, also for the dealing with issues of climate change and forest fires.
I was just going to jump in and say that because obviously we have viewers that are strong Republicans. We do have some viewers now that are strong Democrats, and we do have some moderate viewers. So my question to you is, where is the happy meeting ground on the issue of climate change? Because I hear very strong feelings on both sides.
Well, this is the way I look at it. I spend a lot of time in the water. I just know that the water around us in the Pacific, it's changing. It's different from when I surfed 30, 40 years ago. So it's different. It's a different environment. I think the tide patterns we see on the North Shore, on the king tides, I never experienced that growing up. So these are new phenomena. I don't know what the science might be, but all I know is that the ocean levels are rising, and foreseeably are rising, and it's going to affect all of us in Hawaii, especially those coastal communities or our pockets like Waikiki. That's going to be affected by it. So, we need to get ahead of the curve on those things that I see. And I don't know why it is the science, but it is happening. It's a phenomenon that's happening.
Well, I'm curious. So right now, take a moment, pause the video, and go down into the comments and tell me what your thoughts are on this whole climate change. Do you agree with Marcus, or do you feel like there's some deep-seated governmental interference just to raise taxes? I mean, I'm curious. We don't have a lot of viewers, but for those viewers we have, I'm very curious what your thoughts are on this, and maybe Marcus and I'll talk about it on the next show. So I will tell you where I come from on this. I don't really have a position one way or the other. I just know that because Hawaii is my home, I want to make sure that I'm doing everything that I can to leave a beautiful Hawaiʻi for my keiki and my mo'o puna. Yes.
Your grandchildren.
My grandchildren, yes. I want to make sure that one day when their grandparents, that they could say, hey, my grandmother cared or taught me about this.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that's important. Looking down the road, the next 7 generations, that, we got skin in the game for them now.
It's interesting because I have family in town right now. My granddaughter's in town, and she's my only granddaughter. And I had given her a quilt that my grandmother from Maui, the one that was born and raised on Maui, she made this quilt by hand with, this is the coolest thing, Marcus. She took Aloha shirts from my grandfather when they would get old, and she would take pieces of his beautiful Aloha shirts, and she turned it into a quilt. So this quilt that she made has pieces of my grandfather's Aloha shirts, some of her mu'us. And so she gave that to me. So my grandmother gave that to me. And so I had it for many years. And then it started to fray and get a little bit of destroyed. So my grandma, my auntie, who is my dad's sister, she does beautiful quilting because a lot of our kupuna, they quilt. That's a big thing,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
sewing and all
yeah,
that,
yeah.
especially our older generation. So she knows how to do that. So she fixed it, the areas that were fraying, and then she put in a couple of her mu'us in there, and I think there's a couple from her husband too. So there's some different patterns in there, but this
Wow.
beautiful quilt. So anyway, I gave that quilt to my granddaughter, and I said, I want to start a tradition. My grandmother gave it to me, so I'm giving this to
Hey.
you. It's beautiful, and it's so Hawaii. I mean, this quilt is so beautifully Hawaii. But we started talking about that legacy of what we leave to our children and to our grandchildren. What are they learning from us? When we're gone one day, I want my kids and my grandkids and my nieces and nephews to say, I remember talking to auntie or grandma about
Right.
this, and here's what she said. Because I'm going to be with Jesus. I'm going to be happy.
Yeah.
I'm
Oh,
not going
yeah,
to be
yeah.
thinking about what's
Yeah, oh,
happening
yeah.
down here.
Oh, yeah.
But there is something great that we're trying to leave to our family.
Yeah, it's paying it forward by, making sure it's there for them also.
Okay, in this last couple of minutes, this is a fun one. You're going to love this. And
Okay.
people do not know this about you, Marcus. So now I should have asked you this in the Inside the Mind of Marcus, that you have done some theater here in this state. In fact, I went to go see one of your productions.
You did.
Yeah, it was so fun. Marcus is excellent. He's totally excellent. But okay, so what do you think about this live action Lilo and Stitch?
I think it's great, especially because it's local people are involved in it right now, and they can tell their story on a larger screen and platform, internationally speaking. And in fact, this past weekend, they broke some box office records. And I got to be honest, I didn't go to see Lilo and Stitch. I went to see Tom Cruise because I'm a Tom Cruise fan. But anyway, Lilo and Stitch, they're doing really good, and the local actors and actresses are in that. It's so good.
I give a major round of applause to them because what I love is they really found native Hawaiian actors.
Yeah,
I tell you, I boycott when when they remade Hawaii Five-0 that second time. I was mad because they had the Hawaiian girl that they had playing was
Yeah.
Korean. Now, she was very talented
Oh, yeah,
actress.
yeah.
Very
Kinda.
talented
Yeah,
actress.
yeah.
Love her and things.
Yeah.
But I was like, you're telling me in this entire beautiful state of Hawaii that you
Yeah.
couldn't find one native Hawaiian female actress to play her.
No.
So I kind of boycotted it. I loved the original Hawaii Five-0.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, all of us did.
I'm dun, 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 dun. All right, we are once again getting to the end of our show. So what would be our call to action? If there's a call to action on maybe, I don't know, staying plugged into current events.
Well, I think the time right now between the special sessions is to keep abreast of what's going on in Congress right now. The U.S. Senate is going to be looking at the budget right now that the Congress has just passed, just squeaked by out of Congress. So, Speaker Johnson is probably pleased, but there's going to be some changes. I think one of the biggest issues right now is that are there going to be any cuts to Medicaid? And Medicaid is such an essential component of anyone's budget, any state's budget, both red and blue. It's important to make sure that level of funding remains there. I'm not talking about fraud and abuse and illegal people getting access to it, but really, it's an important program. So stay tuned about that. And again, if there's any bills out there that the governor should veto, call the governor. It's at his desk right now to determine whether or not a bill is signed into law, passes into law without his signature, or he vetoes it.
Well, we appreciate that you spent your time with us today. Make sure you like this video, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell so that you know every time we upload a new video. Comment below because that really does help all of the metrics that get our YouTube out there. Stay tuned for the next show because we are going to talk a little bit about the budget that squeaked by, and we're also going to be talking about special sessions. So this was kind of a fun show. Next week, we're going to get back into a little bit more of the politics. So we'll see all of you next week. Mahalo, everybody.